Welcome everybody again. I want to introduce Pavan, who is our capper of the month. Oh look, he dabbed himself up. He dabbed himself up. So thank you, Pavan, for absolutely for coming and speaking. As I was saying before, Pavan is very special to us because he brings a whole nother, not because he's a beautiful man. And I got a beautiful daughter, right? Yes. That's the most important part. His baby is gorgeous, okay?
She didn't get it from me.
Yes.
All my wife.
His wife is gorgeous. And we're so blessed though to have him. He does development here and all over, really. Yeah.
For the most part, LA and Orange.
LA and Orange, okay. And so, which is a vast area, right?
That is true.
Yes.
That is true.
And it has a unique background. And so we get an opportunity to pick his brain today, you guys. So ask away, ask all of your questions, because he is a wealth of knowledge. And so without further ado, Pavan, thank you.
Thank you very much, Brandy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How is everyone doing? Doing good?
Yeah.
Good. So as Brandy mentioned, I am a land developer. My background, I'm an accountant by trade. But I run multiple companies. One is a general construction firm. I am a licensed broker and a licensed general contractor. But I got my grad degree in land development and finance. So I got into real estate just by chance. I come from an entertainment industry. In the 90s, I was a disc jockey and a b-boy. One of my talents that I used to manage, his dad worked for a CPA firm. And interestingly, they were looking for somebody that was good with numbers, you know. And so I basically put together my resume and sent it to him. My friend's dad's boss gave me a call, and I got a job as a staff accountant. The CPA firm actually had a national contract with the U.S. Department of Housing, REO division. Basically, my job as a senior accountant and a contract manager was to manage create financial controls for over 10,000 properties throughout the nation that our asset managers would acquire through foreclosure. Basically, how HUD works is any property that's FHA insured and it gets foreclosed, and it doesn't sell at the trustee sale, they come knocking at HUD's door to file a claim and recoup all their money because they have an insurance policy, right? So we review the claim, we pay out the lender, we take it into our inventory and prep it and sell it off in the market. Hence, you have all these HUD homes, right? One thing led to another, and here I am. I after 25 years, I learned a lot. I always tell people to be successful in real estate, you have to be the jack of all trades, but master of one. You guys are in sales, right? So, so I always tell people there's your primary discipline and your secondary disciplines, and you need to be well versed in everything. But because you're in sales, that's always going to be your primary discipline that you're going to really fine tune and hone, right? Other disciplines that you need to really understand is accountancy, finance, zoning laws, just overall land development, a number of other facets that will help you better achieve your own financial goals, but also help others achieve their financial wealth through real estate. What's the old saying? 90% of everybody's wealth was created in real estate. You know, it doesn't matter what industry they come from, what type of jobs that they had. Typically, real estate is a wealth builder. In that sense, you know, I try to do my best to educate myself on all the disciplines, understanding the changing markets and how to benefit from myself as well as my clients, you know. I just wanted to give you guys a nutshell. Hopefully that gives you guys a good backbone of where I come from. And I'm hoping that we could have more of a conversation to see, you know, where each one of you guys are at, where you feel that, that you have been successful, and where you feel that you could improve yourself, and how I can help you guys in those arenas, you know. So in saying that, I'm assuming conversation is okay.
Whatever
Yeah.
questions you guys have, now you can throw them
Yeah,
out,
please.
Pavan, and, I know Oscar was dying to ask some questions.
So you brought the tequila, right?
You said you were bringing the.
So, you know, this was supposed to be tequila with Catherine.
Yeah.
I could go get it real quick. I live 2 minutes away, so I can always bring a bottle.
It's in here, that's.
Oh, it's in there. Oh, shoot. Okay. Actually, I want to see what type of questions there is.
No,
Oh,
we're
okay.
choosing. Now, those are the, like, if you don't have any questions, you could ask. Did anybody have any questions right off the bat for Pavan?
Oh, no, right off the bat, I wanna know what type of prospect we need now. Number three.
So I don't practice typical brokerage or real estate as well. You know, people ask me that question, and I tell people I suck at prospecting. And the reason I say that is because I never cold called a day in my life. I never door knocked a day in my life. Just because I was more focused on the investment side than the typical sales side, right? And I grew my skill sets to that side, you know. So a lot of times people refer clients to me, and believe it or not, a lot of agents refer clients to me because it's in an arena that they weren't able to, that they don't know enough of. So they team up with me to actually help them help their clients, right? A lot of people just call me for advice, and one thing leads to another, and people refer me clients, you know. 99% of my deals are referred. You know, we never had to, I never had to do that aspect. Now my team, however, Brian Tello, he's not here right now. He actually does a lot of prospecting for what we want, you know, because and some of the typical elements that he works on is just, you know, calling potential sellers, buyers, well, mostly sellers, as well as sending out letters. Now, because we're a land developer, we really focus on trying to reach out to landowners that we feel that that we could redevelop their existing property, or we have a client that's looking for a commercial asset, you know. Like the last couple of deals that we did, Brian reached out to the landowner and said, hey, your property is underutilized. Who's familiar with appraisers and the concept of highest and best use, right? So the highest and best use is always understanding what the land use is and figuring out where can the landowner or us can maximize value for that piece of land. Either if it's repositioning it, redeveloping it, tearing it down, building a bigger project. That's what we really focus. And we bring all different elements to the table so that way sellers understand that we're not just a typical land developer. We understand taxation. We understand land itself, the municipal code, zoning conditions, and all these elements that we bring to the table that they feel comfortable working, you know. So I hope that gave you some understanding of how we go about it in comparison to the process, how I prospect it.
What's your team look like? Like, what is your team made up of? Who's on your team?
So my team, we have a small staff of real estate sales professionals. But most of my team is construction professionals, architects, engineers, financiers, accountants, you know. So I make sure our team is well versed in all different trades that benefit the real estate market. And depending on what the situation is, we could bring all of those elements together, you know. So I have a product that we recently released called Orion Wealth. And what we do, and these are usually for investors that want to grow their wealth, but they don't know where to start. So we kind of sit there and figure out what their investment goals are, what their capacity is, what their liquidity is, and then figure out how to structure deals that will benefit them. We never pitch deals. Okay, we tell them, look, if we don't understand you and your investment goals, and when I say investment goals, what are you looking to get, right? Liquidity, how much capital do you have? Capacity, how much can a bank lend you at any particular time? Those three elements are very important for us to create a strategy that helps individuals grow. You know, people always tell me, well, just send me this, and I'm like, no, you know, that's something that I'll probably let other team members handle. Just because I would rather get involved when there's something of much more value that I could bring. Because if I'm just sending you a listing, I'm wasting your time, and you're wasting my time. You know, and not because I don't want to help. It's more that you're not utilizing our skill sets as a team to help you grow your wealth. You know, so we're very, very picky on who we choose to work with.
Well, and anybody can send a list, and you can go get a list off of any website out there.
Yep.
Like you said, how's that really documented?
Yeah, I agree. You know, but sometimes, you know, people don't have time, so they're looking for somebody to guide them, right? So hence it's really important to work with a realtor that can actually help you with your end goals. If it's buying a home, buying your first investment property, or as complex as a land development, you know.
Okay, so let me break this down. So what you're saying, let me try and understand this. So if we found a customer who's got a small house on a big lot, that would be like your ideal kind of.
Believe it or not, right now we're targeting homeowners that have that situation because we want to create their wealth.
Why would they go with you rather than just do some ADUs?
Why if they can't finance it? Why if they don't have the capital? Why they don't have the resources? Because buying a real estate property as a homeowner is a lot easier than being an investor because there's a lot more constraints, a lot more restrictions to finance an investor than a homeowner, right? But typically, if you're financing an ADU, your capacity has to be at that level. You remember what I said, you know, your liquidity and your capacity from a lending standpoint. If you don't have one or the other, you're not going to get loan. So we tell homeowners, look, you can partner up with us, you know, and we will help you structure and strategize where both of us can make money, you know. Because remember, the best way to win is both of you win. You know, if you both don't win, what's the point of them working with you? You know, and I tell these homeowners from the get-go, look, I'm in it to make money. I'm an opportunist. But my goal of being profitable means that you also have to be profitable. Because if you're not, then this relationship is not going to work out. You know, because I don't want to just do that one deal with that homeowner. I'm going to teach them how to grow their wealth through real estate. You know, even if it's starting off with that one property that they currently own, and then start building off that. If a homeowner has only one property and, like you said, a small home and a big lot, I guarantee I can create a strategy, a 7-year plan for them to have 4 or 5 properties within that time. But it takes time to develop, build that strategy and execute it. You know, because we will build out that action plan for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Honestly, guys, I'm right next door. So if you guys just want to throw out scenarios, and if it's something and based on the information you give me, I'm more than happy to share anything and everything. And I think some of you guys already talked to me in the past. And one thing my grandfather taught me was any knowledge I have, I'm going to die with it. If I don't pass it on, it's wasted. You know, so some of the some of my best mentors were people that always shared, always was willing to look at the mistakes they've done, the experiences that they have, and they're hoping that that information that was given to me can catapult me much faster than they could, you know. Short story, my grandfather in India, he once told me that when he was young, there was abundance of opportunity, but there wasn't as many people going after it. As generation passed, population grew, there's the same abundance of opportunity, but there's 10 times as many people that are going after those opportunities. So what sets you apart is your skill sets and your knowledge and your ability to execute, because if you're going to a job interview, for example, the first thing that they see is what's on that resume, right? They're going to look at it like, okay, what is their background? What is their work experience? What is their education? They're going to pick based on it. They don't know you, right? Now it's your job, if you can even get in the door, to sell yourself to show that, hey, I'm a much better candidate than the next person. Now that comes down to communication. One thing about sales is that you have to be a good communicator, because if you can't communicate information correctly, your success will be limited. One of my mentors at HUD, he was all like, look, you have to command the language. If you're a doctor, you have to understand the language of medicine. If you're a realtor, you have to understand the language of real estate. If you're a financier, that's a language. We call it the language of the English language, but within that, there are disciplines within it, you have to protect it. That's when you actually can be very successful. Because I guarantee you, when you sit down in front of a potential client and they can see that you're competent, you're confident, and you understand what you're saying and you can communicate that information very clearly, they want to hear you out more, right? So
do you ever use like 1031 exchange?
So I have a love-hate for 1031s. They're great, but they're limited. I tell my investors, if you could just cash out and reinvest, do it, because 1031 only works if you're doing a like-kind exchange, right? But two, you only have 45 days to pick number of properties, and you only have 6 months to close. So if you're selling a 4-unit property and you're going to build up to an 8-unit property, fine. If that's your strategy, then 1031 and keep on going that passive income scenario. Here's the thing. I would say about 2 out of 3 1031s, they're buying into something overinflated value. And people don't understand that, but because they have to buy something, they pull the trigger on it because they have no other choice. Because they're so stuck on, oh my God, I'm gonna have to pay tax on this, tax on that. Forget about taxes, okay? Think about where that money can grow further somewhere else. I tell people, if let's just say you're paying $100,000 in taxes. How about if I tell you that loss that you sustained that 1 year, I could double that within 5. And they're like, well, how do you do it? Because you need to stop looking at real asset as, the only thing you can buy is what's existing and like, there's other avenues in real estate that you can make money. It's never about just simply buying and selling,
And that would be the development, you mean? That would be
Yeah,
developing plan, okay.
Yeah, developing. So I don't know if you guys know, I recently launched a real estate fund. It's a $50 million fund that focuses on we have a 3-pronged approach. One is fix and flip, fix and hold, single family land development, for build to rent, build to sell, and multifamily development, right? So one of the biggest things that I noticed is like some of our clients that sell their property, they decide to come with us instead of doing a 1031. Because what we're offering them is a lot better return in the long run than them actually doing a 1031 into another property.
Is that an opportunity fund?
Yeah. So it's a And so I seen your post about the 1031 alternative. So we're not a opportunity zone fund, we're just a residential fund. So your 1031 that you posted on social media, is the 2017 tax law. It creates opportunity zones throughout the nation, that investors can take their money, if they're selling stock, if they're selling real estate, and move this money into an opportunity fund. Now, I want people to understand what that means. You're not buying an asset, you're buying a security into a fund. Totally different thing, right? So I have investors come to me, like, my agent told me that I could put my money into an opportunity zone and not be taxed. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. It has to be part of a fund that's structured in that way. You just can't go buy a property in an opportunity zone. It doesn't work that way. Did that answer one of your questions? No other questions?
So when you're developing, like a property, are there certain restrictions that are challenging, like zoning, for example?
Regulatory framework is always challenging. Government is slow moving. And they're highly regulated, right? So I get headaches dealing with it. The problem is not zoning, municipal code, regulations. Most people that you're talking to are entry-level workers. They don't know the big picture. So they're just checking away what everything is. So the dilemma that we as developers face is not all the red tape per se. Part of it is red tape, don't get me wrong. Part of it is the person that you're talking to that actually is processing the paperwork, they don't know enough. You know, they're naive to the fact, and all they're doing is checking off on this checklist. Like, do they have this? Do they have this? Oh, this is not there. Okay, we're going to send all of it back, and you're going to have to come back and resubmit. And it's just they need to figure out a way to streamline it, but the government is an imperfect being, you know, it's too big, in the sense that there's too much. Especially in the United States, the government is structured in a way there's a lot of accountability to the people, right? So there's a lot of red tape within the system itself. When I used to work at HUD, one of the things that we were supposed to do for the CPA firm was figure out how to reduce costs. Everything that required that we wanted to propose would require them firing people, removing policy obstacles, which also means that it would remove some of the accountability elements that are required for the government to function. You know, so I have a love-hate relationship because I come from both sides. I understand why it's needed, but also think it's redundant sometimes. But trust me, I just dealt with something right now that initially the city said I needed one thing, I provided it, but oh, you don't need it. I'm like, what's going on, right? So let me not talk bad about them, but the fact is, it is what it is. You deal with it as it comes.
Yeah.
But if you want to, actually, we're going to be, we're just getting our final one of our projects here in Downey. So we're going to do a tour of one of our projects. The 2 units, yeah. So, and then we have another construction site in Downey, and I'm about to tear down another home right here, build a home with an ADU, brand new in the Cherokee Estate. So, one of the things that I will share with you guys is, you know, my journey at the job site, because I can tell you how I went about it, but until you see it, feel it, it's not the same. You know, I'm a huge believer in academia. Academia gives you part of the solution. Experience gives you the other. You know, the third part is common sense. You know, and some people might not have one or most of the time 2 of them. So, but you know, that's why 95% of this society are regular employees, while the 5% are entrepreneurs. You know, like us.
So, yeah, so on the fund that you do, does your fund actually pay for the entire process? Or are you feeling an impact from interest rates too.
The whole point of the fund was because of the interest rates. That's why I said that, because this is the time for investors to participate as a pool and not as
So
individuals.
you have to go to the bank.
Well, we still go to the bank. So people get too caught up with the interest rate. As a homeowner, I get it because, you know, you have a paycheck coming in and you're gonna have to dish out this much money. As an investor, you should look at the interest rate as your baseline. And your job is to figure out a way to make a spread on top of it, right? So before, when interest rates were 4 or 5%, you know, you're getting a 5-7% spread, right?
Wow, all of the syndicators I see on YouTube are saying completely the opposite of what you're saying.
Yeah.
They're all completely,
Well, you know why? Because so here's the problem. So the concept of risk management is foreign to some of these fund managers, right? They over leverage. So some of the deals that I'm working on, these are developers that over leverage. Now they can get financing to finish the project. And we're gonna see a lot of that because, so I know we bought a property that we're actually gonna be releasing, unfinished project, 6 homes. And the developer ran out of money. You know, interest rates were growing and he couldn't finance, get more money out because of the debt services, right? We came in, bought it at a discount, and we're finishing it up right now. Actually, we're gonna get certificate of occupancy in about 30 to 45 days. So trust me, guys, if you guys understand how that works, you guys can make a killing in this market. Just as a realtor, you're gonna start finding opportunities like that now, you know. And I'm hoping the class I'm looking at. Yes,
Like
that was
now.
honestly, that was the next, I was gonna answer that. So, we've been
Yeah.
talking about teaching a land development class. So, and one of the whole points of these classes, I'm gonna bridge the gap between experience and academia. I'm gonna try to give you guys tools that make sense. I can't teach you everything all at once. Keep in mind, I'm still learning, guys. I've been in the game for 25 years, you know, and I worked as an accountant for 10 years. I worked as, you know, and I have all these different licenses. I'm still learning, you know. Yes.
I have a question, and it's on the defective. For a new agent that are coming on board, new in the field, what advice would you give them? Whether it's commercial, doing single family homes, probate, any field, what advice would you give
New agents,
new agents coming on?
get a mentor. You need to be mentored. The problem with getting a license doesn't mean shit. Excuse my language. Because here's the thing, I know a lot of people that are licensed that don't know real estate. They take 3 classes and pass the exam. Did you know real estate license is the only license that doesn't require mentorship
Right.
to
Yeah.
start the business?
Right.
Every single other element, if you're an architect, engineers, even general contractors, they need to work under someone before they can actually get their licenses or be able to be on their own. Prior to the 70s, the broker, so even now, when you guys get listings, it's the brokerage's listing, it's not yours, right? You guys understand that, right? So back then, what happened was, you as an individual agent that's new, you will work under a broker and the broker will mentor you one-on-one. You don't take on listings, you actually work the listings that the broker has. And after a number of years, they will allow you to take on your own listings, right? Under the tutelage of the broker. We watered down the brokerage business a lot in the last 40, 50 years. Nothing against the whole brokerage business myself. I'm a broker myself, okay? So we watered it down so much that we're more focused on quantity over quality.
Yeah.
You know, what's the old saying? Only 10% of the agents produce, while the other 90 don't. That's mainly because of that, because there isn't enough, the broker that's off record, don't have a big enough team to mentor. KW has probably the best infrastructure in that sense, because they do allow, they do have, one, they have a brick and mortar infrastructure. Okay? Every single office works pretty much in the same system, you know? And there's, and it allows new agents to have the resources to build their knowledge base, right? Now, just because they have all these tools, it really comes down to you guys taking advantage, right? It doesn't matter. I could throw everything at you, you know, what's the old saying? You could,
Teach a person to fish, but.
yeah, well, you give, yeah, exactly. That's the term.
Yeah.
But you have to take advantage of it, you know. I'll tell you this, my mentors, they wouldn't have taught me anything if they didn't feel that I had the drive or the passion, you know. You could have 10 degrees, but if you don't have drive and the passion of degrees, I mean, it's nothing, you know. So, but I still tell people education is a must. It doesn't matter how you get it. Street knowledge, academia, they're invaluable. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Liz? Okay.
So you're making money on the developing things. What about these office buildings? Everybody says that's gonna be the biggest disruption. Everybody's gonna turn back the keys and stuff. There's gotta be,
There's a lot of people that are turning back the keys.
yeah,
right?
with that much of a problem, there's gotta be.
There is, there's a lot of, there's funds out there that are letting go of their, office buildings to banks. You know, what was that? That, a major fund that defaulted on a $200 million loan. And they just let the bank take it. You know, they're like, we don't want, because they can't recoup that money. So I want you to understand one thing. Those funds that are letting go of these properties, they have a performance matrix that they have to meet. If they don't, they have to let it go. You know, because then they're better off moving that money somewhere else that's going to be performing at that caliber that they promised their investors. You know, so it's not just simply they want to let it go, it's because they could utilize that money that they have. Instead of throwing it at this property, they could throw it at the next property that's going to perform better and give them a better return. You know, and that's what we call a strategic default, right? You know, we heard that term being thrown out after 2008, 2009. Everybody was, there was strategic defaults everywhere, you know.
But none of those can like be converted into a multi-family or anything like that. I mean, there's gotta be some way to make money. Well,
Yeah,
anytime everything goes to heck.
it takes a lot of work. Yeah, no, honestly, there's opportunities in office spaces to convert, but that's gonna take a lot of work, you know. Some of these office buildings, they're not set up in anywhere fashion to be convertible to residence. Hotels, possibly, you could convert those into residences because they have the infrastructure needed. But to do that at an office building, which is built of structural steel and concrete, there's the amount of money that you have to throw at it, it wouldn't be worth it, you know. I'm better off tearing it down and building a new, you know, new multifamily or mixed use project, you know. So that's why even office buildings, I'm looking for underdeveloped office buildings. If they're fully developed, there's no value for us, right?
Underdeveloped, you mean like they've started building and they didn't have the funds to finish?
No, well, that's one way of looking at it. What I'm talking about, it's a small office building that's that because of zoning, you could actually build, you know, let's just say there's a single story office building right down the street. But the zone allows you to build a 3-story office building, you know, or because of zoning, they're being a little bit more lax on converting them into mixed use or residential. It's something that I would want to look at for the highest and best use, you know. So yeah, so especially zoning laws are slowly changing. It just takes time. A lot, you know. But keep in mind, let's just look at Orange County in LA. People always complain about it. Right? City of LA has what, 5 million people? That's like the same as the entire Orange County. You know, I mean, literally, we have it's densely populated. It was built 50 years behind, all the infrastructure is 50 years older, you know, compared to Orange County, right? So when you, so like, I live, near Lakewood and Florence, right? And you notice how the freeways just get so much better as soon as you pass the 605. Like you jump on the 5, that freeway is smooth. As soon as you come this side of the 605, it's crap. You know, that's just because the infrastructure was not meant for this big of a population. You know, and hence some people are moving out of state. Some people are, you know, moving outskirts. You know, into Riverside, Ventura, things like that. But the biggest driving force that people are moving, I know I'm going off on a little tangent, is because of affordability. There isn't enough product, you know, there isn't, you know. No, I don't think, and especially now we're in Orange County. I always use a bullseye theory. Did I ever share, I share with you the bullseye theory. Who played darts? Everybody, right? You know, it's a great drinking game, right? Just saying, not that I did it before. No. So, you know, a bullseye, you have your red, and there's 3 different sections, right? The further out you go, the less points you get. Let's convert them to risk. Highest risk being outskirts, and the lowest risk being the metropolitan. If you looked at every single recession, it gets hit hardest in the outskirts, and it slowly trickles in and hits the center, right? When it recovers from inside out. You know, so right now, hence I'm only focused in LA and Orange County because there's opportunities right here, and because of how the economics are changing, people are looking, if they're going to live here, they want higher quality housing. That's going to be that they want. So like people, like one of my investors asked me, he's like, why are you spending so much money to convert a 2.1 into a 2.5 or 2.2? Because the economics have changed, demographics have changed. You know, people are not looking at that. You know, people will pay money for a higher quality product. You know, and right now people are looking for more comfort. You know, but there's nothing of this of it now. You know, because most of these homes were built what 50, 60, 70, 100 years ago. You know, especially in LA. You know. Any other question? Or did I at least address some of
Yeah.
what happened?
Remember you said you were gonna touch on, something about finding opportunities for, you were saying you were gonna touch on experience and not outreach, academia. Did you do that?
Experience in acting.
You said you were gonna start on that experience and academia. Am I tripping?
Oh, so it's what you need is a combination. So look, guys, what I think what your the conversation was, you need to be well-rounded. Your success depends on that. You know, what annoys me about our industry is I hear brokers telling their agents, you don't need to go to school. You can make 100 grand working for us. They're sucking you into making them money because they just want a body that could run around and make money, because they're looking at quantity, not quality. You know, hence the 10% are the ones that are successful because they understood the game. You know, trust me, and I sit there, shake my head at some of these brokers, and I'm like, how did you even get your license? You know, but I mean, it doesn't take much to pass a test. I'll tell you that right now.
You have to say for it,
Yeah. Yeah, and okay, here's another issue that I have. People always talk about, like, I was talking to a broker, and he was all like, you know, all academic is structured with repetition. I'm like, that's exactly what you're telling your agents to do.
Yeah.
Repeat and rinse,
Yeah.
right? You know, you're basically telling them, here's your script, repeat it, and you're going to get better at it. That's the same thing academia is, right? But they're knocking one side, but they're doing the same thing on this side. kind of hypocritical, in my opinion, you know.
Okay, I feel like
Ladies first.
I feel like the best way to learn is to just kind of get in there and to do it.
Yep.
And make some mistakes too,
Mhm.
but like you said, get a mentor first and then go and try to apply it. But I do want to ask you a question 9 says, what are some of your biggest mistakes and made? Like what happened?
Oh, I got a lot of mistakes.
One,
So I have a project here, hillside projects that have been struggling. And the biggest mistake I done was on that one, depending on other people to give me advice, right? As in the architects, the engineers. But they didn't tell me there was other
underlining.
underlying conditions that might impact the project,
Mm.
right? So I jumped into it, and so keep in mind when you buy land, you're stuck with it. You can't run from it. You're in. So I think being a little bit more educated would have helped me not fall into those pitfalls. You know. The other risk was 2008. I thought I was doing well. I lost 14 properties. And keep in mind, I was buying foreclosure at 70 cents, 60 cents on the dollar. You know, and I'm like, some people were telling me, well, there's going to be a correction. I was like, well, as long as it's 15, 20% correct, I'm still safe because I was buying properties at 70 cents on the dollar, but my total, and I was putting 20, 30% down, and my based on that value, I was at 50. You know, when the market crashed, some of my properties lost 50, 60% of value. You know, and at that point I was over leveraged, right? And that wasn't the issue. It was more that a lot of my tenants, they lost their jobs. They couldn't pay, and I had $40,000 worth of mortgages when I was making $60,000 in income. And I'm sitting here thinking, and all of a sudden, I was barely bringing in $10,000 worth of income and still had a $40,000 mortgage, right? At some point, it just bled me dry, you know. And believe it or not, I even tried to talk to the bank to say, can we modify this loan? Give me some time until we could weather the storm. They're like, you know what they told me? They said I had too much money in my account. 6 months later, after my account bled dry, they're like, oh, you don't have enough resources. And I was so ticked off. I mean, I wish they could see me. I was giving them two middle fingers, and then, you know, this. Valuable lesson is understanding this. You know, you need to be careful because real estate is very capital intensive. So like even now, every project that I assess, I look at it from a two-pronged approach. So we always assess a property from a sales perspective. What is the property going to be valued at after we're done? Okay. From a debt perspective, I'm like, okay, what is the maximum debt that we could take and still, you know, if we're forced to rent, can we still make money without struggling? So I manage my risk by making sure our debt is low enough that we could weather any storm, you know, and we could carry the mortgage without any issue. So I make sure I have enough reserves. I stay or within means of the debt being low enough where I have multiple exits, you know.
What would you have done differently about the land? Like how would you have gone about purchasing the land before you know, now that you know what you know?
So everything I learned from that, I've been implementing, by the way.
Okay.
So
That's good.
like I'm working on a project in Laverne right now. And the seller's telling me that, oh yeah, it's only going to take this much money. I will get it done in 9 months. I'm like, no. So you need to understand. So when you buy land, the best way to buy it is do a long escrow and do all the entitlements and get a loan when you're ready to construct. You don't want to buy unless you have liquidity and you could get a good discount. buy it. You know, because you could, whether you could, all cash them, do not get a loan. Some of the developers that we're negotiating with right now, they're over leveraged because they bought the land with my bank gave me a 50% loan to value. Well, great. Now they can't get financing for the construction. They're being forced to sell. So I make sure that even if I have to raise a little bit more capital and put more money into a project, I'll rather buy the land at a good discount, and then that way I have no liability on it. But
Rather than just tie it up with a small deposit, have it for like 18 months before you have to put the cash out.
so
You'd rather put the cash out, that's right?
I could do both, depending on the situation. Like the Laverne project that we're working on, 7 luxury homes, right? The seller, when they first came to me, they were like, yeah, it's only gonna cost you $200,000 to finish up all the entitlements and go to construction. I looked at the project. With my past experience, I understood that's not what it's going to be. So I had to sit down with them. These are 2 agents that are not equipped to sell land, so I was like, guys, we need to talk to the seller directly. You guys can get paid, I don't care. Let's all get together, let's talk about what you're telling me, and I'll express my issues. It's not $200,000 it's gonna cost. It's gonna cost me $750,000 plus to finish all the entitlements, right? It costs a lot to build, or develop, or entitle, and get plans approved, It's not just an architect, you need engineers. Now, here's the thing. When you talk about land, your first thing, the type of different people you need is you need an architect, a civil engineer, a soils engineer, sometimes a certified geologist. You might need an arborist, you need a structural engineer, mechanical engineer, electric and plumbing engineer. They need to develop all these plans. They all have to be working well together. If you try to compartmentalize, that's another mistake that I did in the past. If I try to go with the cheapest, biggest mistake I did. There's an old saying, penny wise, pound foolish, right? I'm trying to save $1 now, but I'm spending pounds later, And if I would have just went with the much higher quality architects and engineers on that one project, I would have paid more initially, but the amount of time and resources that I had to spend, I would have recouped it tenfold. So people ask me, well, can you develop my land? And I tell them, yes, I can, but I give them, I charge a pretty penny, right? My fees, like just from my advisory services, I charge $750 an hour, right? And I tell people, but we'll get it done, and people are like, well, this guy is giving me a flat fee of $3,000, or $5,000 or $10,000. I'm like, go with it. That's fine, And actually, I had two people come back to me like, can you take over the project? I'm like, yeah, we could take over. Now we had to fix problems that the other people made. Right? So, and if it wasn't my failures, I probably wouldn't be as successful. Luckily, my failures weren't as devastating as 2008 was a pretty bad failure. And it's something that I couldn't control, but it happens. But here's the thing, people, if you fail, so my boss at HUD, who was also my mentor, I made a mistake. And they always he once told me, like, Pavan, you do an amazing job. Every single thing that you do has been great, but you made a mistake here. The federal government are people that are looking down at us, they're going to see that and they're going to always look at that mistake. You're as good as your weakest link, right? So, so all your successes are underappreciated. Your failures are, exactly. There was an old saying, people you know, they talk about, don't talk about your problems, right? 80% of the people don't give a damn about your problem, but 20% actually are happy you have.
Wow.
You know, so, you know, I'm gonna take off the jacket, sorry.
But I mean, the reality is that you don't learn from
Yeah, yeah.
your successes.
Nope.
You learn from your failures.
Yep,
So if you're not failing, you're not doing big things.
yep, exactly.
You know, that's it. I told my son the other day, he had a bomb game. I mean, just played his tail off. He watched that video like a zillion times.
Uh-huh.
The next day, horrible. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what the heck just happened? And he didn't watch the video at all. And so the next day I told him, I said, Drew, the video you should have been watching over and over again is the bad game. I said, the good game, honey, you did everything perfect.
Yep.
I said, the bad game is the one you should have been watching to see what you could have improved,
Yep.
what you could have done differently.
Yep.
I said, you don't learn from you being Michael Jordan. You learn from what he was before he was Michael Jordan.
Yep.
Right? And
Yep.
so but we always think, you know, when we fail, it's such a bad thing. No, it's an opportunity. Yeah. For us to, you know, learn and fail forward.
Yep.
I love that you said that, though.
A segue to what you just said. People always ask me, like, there's agents that want me to work with them and help them, right? Meaning that they bring a deal that like, I want to do this deal. They're like, have you ever done this deal? Have you ever failed in this deal? They're like, well, I haven't done it or I haven't failed. I tell people, if you haven't failed, that means you really haven't succeeded. You know, your success is based on your failures, right? So, because that's where the real growth is, you know. And sometimes those failures, you burn some bridges. It happens. It's not your fault. It's just people look at failures and they mock you know, and they hold that against you. You know, I tell myself, you know, let them be, you know, because if this person doesn't want to work with you, there's 10 other people that want to work with you. The goal is never to lose trust in from people, but there's certain things that are just outside your control. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
So question, when you develop a property, is it your intention, I guess it's also depending on the market where it's at, is it your intention to, if it's residential, like to buy into, or I mean, to hold it and rent it out, or do you just sell it?
So I always go in there, so as I mentioned earlier, I have a two-pronged approach to every development. Build to rent or build to sell, right? Meaning that, you know, they both have to make sense for me to pull the trigger. Now, when I pull the trigger, when we get closer, I try to see which one makes us the most money, and then go that route. Okay. Rental products are slow churning, meaning that you don't grow your wealth as fast, but you do grow your wealth very safely, right?
If you ever weed those out, then suddenly, okay, let's get rid of the low performing stuff. Use that money to build some high performing stuff.
Yep. So my fund, for example, if we can't hit 6% cap, we won't touch it. You know, our exit strategy is to sell. You know, we have a problem. Huh? What happened?
You said your exit strategies. So you said earlier that you have multiple.
So build to rental and sale, right? Two-pronged approach. So on the rental side, we want to hit a 6 cap, right? That's truly our goal. Brand new product that's making us a 6% return on the capital. And do you guys ever heard the term capitalization? Okay,
Yeah.
so you guys want to explain to me what that is? The term is based on risk, right? Higher the risk, the higher the capital. That means for every dollar that you put out on a property, you want to make that much back in return, right? So if I say I want to make a 6 cap, if I'm putting $100,000 into a property and I'm buying it all cash, I want to net $6,000 back a year. You know, that's the goal. Now, when you put debt on it, it's a different term, but the capitalization rate is based on the net operating income, right? So it's divided by your let's just say you're making $100,000, you divide that by the value, get your overall sum. So there's different ways to calculate it, but typically you have your income, you have your expenses, you have your net, right? So based on your desired capitalization rate or return on investment, what they call, you divide that number by that net operating income. So if it's $100,000, you want to make an 8% return, what are you going to pay for this property, right? Now, you should look at it from a risk standpoint, because if the property needs a lot of work, you're going to have to take on a lot of unknown risk, right? So based on the income, you would want a higher rate of return because you're taking on additional risk and some that you won't know. So you might actually end up at a 6 cap after you put up all that money, you know.
Talking about commercial, will you be in the near future providing that training, introduction to commercial, because it seems like a lot of those questions, so.
Yeah,
maybe something that you
yeah.
can talk about. maybe
Brandy and I were talking about that.
Right, okay,
Class just what, last month? Yeah, and now we're doing one on Thursday.
awesome.
Thursday, we're gonna go over recovery,
Well, there you
Okay.
go.
So stay tuned, Oscar. No, it's just, when I was
So
there,
I'm going to be launching a full program called the Magic of Real Estate. You know, so the concept. So people know me. I am a magician from the Magic Castle. So I try to introduce magic, make it a little bit more entertaining as possible. And for me, I like to have a conversation with people because it keeps the class very active and everybody's very good. You know, so hopefully you guys will like it. You know, I do give homework though. And that program that I put together are based on modules. You have to understand the first module to be able to grasp the second. It's a building block, right? And I'm talking about, I'll teach you how to create your spreadsheet, how to put everything together. You have to know Excel, guys. If you don't know Excel, it's going to be very, very, very hard for you to be successful in real estate, in the commercial sector. Because you need to understand how to put together a profit and loss statement. You need to put together your calculations. You need to know how it works, right? But I can't just give you a spreadsheet and tell you to work off this because you don't know what went into it. I make you design your own spreadsheet from scratch based on some fundamental numbers, right? And I'll teach you how to do those calculations yourself on the spreadsheet. So that way you have a blank canvas that you're actually putting all this information and doing the formulas that you need to understand. So I promise you, you will understand your spreadsheets a lot better than me giving you this big spreadsheet and say, you know, just put in these numbers and everything will calculate for you.
No, the formula.
Yeah, that's not how you teach. It might be how some people teach, but you know, I'm pretty sure Ramon will actually dive into how he does all those calculations, so that way you have a better understanding.
I can believe it.
One last question, could you let everybody know maybe the possibility that if any new agent or even our seasoned agent, that if they have a potential commercial deal and don't know what to say, they can go to you guys for that.
Oh,
Back
absolutely.
in and help them form that deal. And make it happen,
I mean,
right? Okay.
People do come to me here and there, and I see how much Ramon is helpful with some of the agents.
Yeah.
I seen you.
I know I've gone to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but here,
Now, I wanna add some, the word commercial, everybody uses like, it's just one big thing.
Yeah.
And commercial is a big arena. I don't do all types of commercial. I have agents that approach me, oh, it's a commercial, because I wanna develop and all that. I have no clue how to do that. I send it to them.
Yeah.
Like, you wanna talk about apartment building, SBA, leases and all that, I can help you.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I have no idea about how to build and develop and all that. So they come to me and I was like, oh, no, you're talking to the wrong agent.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, I don't wanna give you the wrong information. So that's the thing is people say, oh, commercial's a big arena.
Yeah.
I don't do all kinds of commercials, like, he's not doing all kinds of commercials. You gotta be more specific on what the commercial.
Yeah.
No,
I like that.
I don't do.
but here's the thing. I will tell you, because he understands finance, he could pretty much do all types of commercial if he wanted to. Because commercial is a numbers game. That's literally all it is. but you also need to understand certain terminology. Like, for example, retail leases have breakpoint leases. So what that means, like, after a certain point, you're sharing revenue with the landlord, right? So, prime example, my cousin and his friends, they bought the Olympic Theater in downtown, converted it into a retail shop, leased to H&M, the cost of the higher end brand for H&M. After 2 million, they have a revenue share agreement of 2%. So they generated $2 million in revenue. Anything above that, they get a piece. You need to learn how to calculate that, you know. I'm one of the classes that I did talk about retail. I teach you how to calculate that on Excel, how to use if-then statements, so that way you could create that formula correctly, and it will calculate that into it. Now, lenders will not take that into consideration, the breakpoint lease, because they know that might not be consistent year over year. Sometimes it might be zero. Sometimes they only make $1 million. Sometimes they make $5 million. They make a good return. So lenders will discount any type of breakpoint component of a lease. They look at the base and say, hey, worst comes worst, and we know this is what they're going to get. And they're going to use that to calculate how much they're going to lend.
Well, that is actually our time.
I did want to mention something what Ramon brought up. So there's the type of assets that you would see from a financial sector. There's core plus, there's opportunistic, or value add, opportunistic, and speculative, right? Speculative is land. Core is an existing multifamily that's already generating income. So I want you to look at it, that spectrum, right? When he talked about land, you know, there's a lot that goes into it. Banks look at it very high risk because it's very speculative, because you don't know what you could build on. You know, I have agents come to me and say, you could build 50 units on it, no problem. I'm like, oh, okay. Because you don't know the underlying issues with the land for you to be able to develop that many units, right? A lot of times, if they tell me 50 units and the code tells you you can, I discount it by 30%, 40%, because I don't know if I can maximize it that much, and with the type of quality of units that I want to get. Because if you look at when we do a tour in a week or two, and we'll discuss it, you'll see the type of product that we're designing. They're targeting higher quality tenancies, because those type of tenants, they're going to use this as just a building block. They're usually professionals that are just using it as a stepping stone to buy their own home, or they want to live in this neighborhood because of whatever reason, you know. So, Brandy, when can we should have it all cleaned up by next week, maybe the beginning of the year.
I was thinking,
Maybe sooner.
yeah, I was thinking, you know, we have our team meeting on the 19th, which is not next week, but the week after next.
I should be back. So I'm leaving on the 14th and coming back on the 17th. So,
Okay.
so I'm
So I
gonna
was
miss.
thinking-
Monte.
Party. Oh my God.
I missed it 2 years in a row.
Wow. You have to be productive.
Oh,
But I was thinking like the 19th, maybe we could do it right before the team meeting, like
Sure.
we could all go out, you know, the team meetings at 3, maybe at 1, we do the tour and then everybody come back to this. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and we're just getting our final right now, so we're just cleaning up the site, so it doesn't look as messy. And
So we have a
that'll be-
backup date too, if that's too soon.
no, actually, it's all gonna be cleaned up by the end of next week.
Oh, is that
So
it?
we should be good on the 19th. 19th is a Tuesday, correct?
Yes. Uh-huh.
So, okay,
So calendar, tentative, and we got 19.
yeah, I'll make sure that, so let's say, what, noon, 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock.
Okay,
And that program, Pavan, that you said that the Excel, is that something that you're distributing to the office yourself or?
Right. the Excel, well, it's a
Yeah.
software product,
Okay.
that, by Microsoft. Typically, most computers come with it. If you have Office 365 or something, it's like $99 a year, you know, so it has
Oh,
Microsoft
okay.
Word, Excel, OneNote, PowerPoint, and few other
Like,
software.
oh, okay, I thought it was something that you kind of like put together and.
I'll teach you how to use the software product
Okay.
correctly, And the reason I say I want you to do it yourself is I want you to know how to design something.
Yeah.
Because when I was at HUD, we had to create internal financial documents from scratch. If you can do that, I guarantee you, it doesn't matter what type of deal, commercial that you'll get, you will know how to put something together. And I'll actually teach you how to analyze things from a back of the envelope scenario to diving into the details of the deal itself.
And there'll be some other class that you get into.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So maybe, so the magic real estate is about land development and overall, but maybe I will do a commercial segment, which is a 4-course segment. So I think we should do it. So I already have everything set up.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you, Pavan.
Thank you. And if you guys need me, like here usually, and I'm always running around, so.
Hopefully we can bring you a lot of.
Oh, so one thing to note, so we are creating a program